I am outside on a beautifully cool spring evening. I am here tonight to bring you my spring 2022 real estate update. There's a lot going on in the world today. We all know that. There's been a lot going on in the world. Let's talk about the financial world. Let's talk about the world of real estate. Let's talk about the three things that are on people's minds when it comes to real estate globally, or if you're thinking about it from a high level. We are all wondering what is going to happen to the market in terms of interest rates, inflation, and inventory. Those are the three I's that we need to consider when we're looking at the health of the real estate market. So first, we're going to talk about interest rates. We know they're rising. We know that there are people out there who are like, oh my goodness, I have to pay 5.5% or 6.5%. And there's old people out there, maybe like me, who remember paying 7%, or who remember when our older sister paid 13 or 17%. Don't tell mom, it was exactly what she said once she signed that paper. But did you know that the last 6 times that we experienced a 1% increase in mortgage rate, the last 6 times that happened, impact on pricing, I bet it's not what you expect. The last 6 times that there was a rise in interest rates of 1% or more, housing prices, fill in the blank, they went up. Housing prices went up. A couple years it was only 2 or 3%, but housing prices actually rose up to 13% 2 of those times. And we're talking about 1993 and 96, 98, 2003, 2005, and 2012. And in another couple of years, we'll be able to look back and say what happened to prices when rates rose the way they rose in 2022. So interest rates right now, or at the end of December 2021, interest rates were still at 3.1%. They stayed in the 3s up until the middle of March, and now they are up as high as, I have on my graph 4.67%, but I know that I spoke to a mortgage rep today, and we're looking at rates that are over 5 right now. But if you're a seller, don't be so concerned, because prices do go up even when interest rates rise. Buyers are going to pay a little bit more, but you really just want to focus on if you can afford the monthly payment and you plan to stay in your house for 8, 10, 12, 15 years, don't worry so much about what the interest rate is. Build your equity, because your equity will build, because the market is going to continue to increase, maybe not at the same pace that we've seen in the last 2 years, but there are no predictions of the bottom falling out of this market. We may not increase 10, 15, 20%. We may increase at a more normal pace, 7%, 6%, 2%, 3%, but over time, real estate is a safe investment. In fact, now we can talk about the other I word, inflation. How does inflation impact the housing market? Even though we're seeing home prices are still accelerating, that's kind of cool, but let's just put that aside for a minute. Home ownership can actually be considered a hedge against inflation. Let's go back in time and let's look at every decade for the last 6 decades. Home price appreciation outpaced inflation. There was only one decade where it was almost even, and that was in the 2000s. Appreciation was 2.3% and inflation was 2.6%. That's the only time that housing appreciation did not outpace inflation. And what happened in the 2000s? That was when we had 2008. We are not facing the same thing as 2008. So here's the thing. Now, we already have a supply and demand problem. We're going to talk about inventory, because you really can't talk about housing prices without talking about supply and demand. And when there's more demand than there is supply, rates go up. When demand increases because people are afraid they're not going to get a great rate, demand continues to go up, and if supply doesn't change, we get rising rates. There you have it, spring 2022. It's not all gloom and doom. I hope to see you again soon. Oh, that rhymes, gloom, doom, soon. 93, 96, 98, I was in college at those times. June 2003, no I wasn't.